Hello and welcome to the Dapper Gaffer channel. I'm Josiah Sjostrom, and today we're going to check out the Nanlite PavoSlim 120c. I'm a working gaffer here in Northern Illinois, and when we're looking at lights on this channel, we're just thinking about how we can use it in a practical scenario on set. Already got a chance to take this out on a commercial project a couple days earlier this week, so I have some hands-on time with it already, and we're going to dive into the conclusions we came to from our time with it so far. So I've used a variety of Nanlite's fixtures over the years. Different people have brought them to projects. I own a few Pavo tubes that I've been using for a while. I was actually unaware that this fixture existed, but Nanlite was offered to send it to me, and the more I looked at it, the more I'm like, that's actually a pretty cool form factor. I'm always trying to think of like what scenarios would I use it in, what fixtures would it kind of be comparable to or replace, or be used in similar scenarios. To me, I kind of think of like a light gear light mat sort of light, or specifically, I've been using the Kino Freestyle Air recently, which I love, and works with their existing ballasts. But in my mind, I'm like, this is kind of a similar form factor. It's obviously longer than the PavoSlim 120, but kind of similar weight factor. This is like a coroplast based, like light mat stuff. This is actually like a machined aluminum, but it's still very lightweight. When it came in the box, it actually has this soft box on it, which is collapsible. It's a neat, interesting design. So these two blue tabs on the side are actually just holding the box in its collapsed shape. See how it pops out like that? Kind of a nifty design. So it's really meant to largely be used with a softbox on it, and in most scenarios I'd say that's probably how I'd use it as well. The softbox doesn't make it any bigger of a source. It just kind of combines the LEDs into one cohesive source, and this one has the full diffusion. Also has a half stop diffusion. Looks like a half grid option there. But let's just take the box off to see what it looks like without that as well. So there we are. There it is with nothing on it. Yeah, very, very lightweight, but it's nicely rigid and kind of has some almost Kino style plates that go on there. They actually slide horizontally versus like the Kino style where they twist. A nice option they have on here is that you can mount it in multiple places. Now, why does that matter? Sure, it's nice to have a balanced light that's mounted in the middle, but if you're putting it on a knuckle or something, sometimes that really inhibits how you can move the light. So, for instance, we could put it down here, and then that gives you a better angle to tilt down further. Or similarly, you could put it over here, maybe arm off a stand farther, or maybe angle it kind of this direction further than you would be able to if it were mounted in the center. And it's got this nice little articulating sort of do-jobby here, and nice for just going on a baby stand without having to have an arm and a knuckle handy. All right, let's pop this thing on a stand, put it together, and strike it. Where's this guy? Okay, and everything you see here is what comes in the box. I don't think there's anything left in there except for the strap for the case. Head cable. This is something I like. See how that connects together? That's a big deal for me. A lot of manufacturers are coming out with head cables that won't connect to themselves, which is super annoying when you want to extend the head cables, because then you have to have just a lot more lengths. Whereas, well, this is a bit short for my liking. I mean, it's fine for kind of just a standard height sort of stand. You know, you could put the ballast on the ground and you're good. But like if you're really arming it out or doing anything else, I find it to be a bit short. I'm sure I can get another head cable from Nanlite for this. But the beauty of connecting to itself is I could connect 2 head cables of the same size to make it twice as long, or I could get a longer one. If they make a longer one connected with this, and I have like kind of a 3 lengths available. I've got the short one, I've got the long one, and then I've got the short and the long together. So I'm a big fan of that as an option. Just kind of presses in like that. Run this over here. I can go either way on the fact that this kind of dangles off here. It's a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Other manufacturers do that as well. And it's great that they've, are standardizing with the PowerCon connectors. That seems to be the new default for most quality manufacturers, is to go with PowerCon. And that way it's not like another proprietary cable to have on the truck. You probably have some sitting around already. All the cables go into the top of this one instead of coming out of the bottom, like some manufacturers have done previously. It has kind of, it's got this little, you know how this works. Just that V-mount that clicks in. Handy option to have. But we'll just leave it on the table for now. It's also got an egg crate, which I feel is essential. So you get a soft source, but it's also controlled, only goes where you want it. Interesting thing about this design is it's kind of elastic, and it stretches over the softbox, which is a little different, but I think it's a bit faster. And there's a little bit of Velcro. Yes. So that helps keep it on the box a little better. Let's turn it on. 4,300 Kelvin, 52%. That's probably what we were using at when we turned it off. Otherwise, that's a pretty random level to have it at. So this goes all the way up to 7,500 Kelvin and down to 2,700. Pretty simple to operate. You kind of just jog between the options here, and then this one is the dial that actually adjusts them. We'll go to 5,600 just to kind of match what's going on with our other lights. Green magenta shift, thusly. Very useful for matching like existing fixtures, practicals, light bouncing off of buildings or whatever. Got different modes because this is actually full RGB as well. HSI. So we can go all sorts of crazy colors with that, which is fun. And it's really not a gimmick anymore. Like, it's a very useful feature to have. Of course, it's got effects as well. Paparazzi. All these things we've kind of come to expect. Back to 5,600. All right, I'm going to take this box back off of here so you can see the diodes themselves. I'm just going to bring this up to 100% for a second, really blow me out of the water here. So, yeah, if you need throw, obviously you're going to get more throw out of it to take that off. But you're also kind of have a bit of a multi-sourcey look to it because it's got the separate diodes. This unit also has wireless DMX, which is a big deal. You know, working into a professional environment, you can control it wirelessly, but in a non-proprietary format. The app integration is pretty great on this as well, but it's great to have the wireless DMX option. And for powering, Obviously we can plug it into the wall like this, but it has a 4-pin DMX input for external battery pack, or lunchbox style battery, or whatever like that, as well as a V-mount. So to demonstrate that quickly, pop that guy on there, turn it on, and you've got a pretty nice lightweight fixture that you can just walk around town with. However, this is a downside for me. I was informed it only comes in V-mount. I think that's a big oversight. In the US especially, most professionals use gold mount. Lots of things I'm liking about this light. One thing I don't, it only comes in a V-mount. Half the professionals are in the States use gold mount or more.
You sure you searched? There's no gold mount at all.
If you use V-mount, you're an amateur at best. I'm kidding. But I have gold mount, so
no, he's not. He's not kidding. He's a purist for gold mount.
So we gotta use this little adapter. That's what I'm told. I don't know. I might see if I can pull this off there and put a gold mount right on it, because I don't like using adapters if we don't have to. So for me to use this, heavily vested in gold mount, I've had them for years. I have to put this extra adapter on there, which makes it a little more unwieldy to actually power the thing up. So Nanlite, I'd really like to see a gold mount option for this, even if it's like a user changeable thing. It's annoying to have to use adapters like that. That's pretty much the main points about this light. How I would use it? Honestly, one of the first things that comes to mind is rigging, and I think it's really well thought out for that. From just the lightweight nature of it, it's rigid, it's got 1/4-20 mounting points on the front and the back, so you can rig it up however you want, put a little eye hook in there or something. It doesn't have a place for a safety chain to go, which is a little strange. So I suppose you could put like a 1/4-20 eyelet in here and loop the chain through that, but it's kind of one more step. Kind of wish they had just a little wire looper in there or something to safety chain it, but not a big deal. But honestly, this is just a really lightweight fixture, even with a softbox on it. It's pretty lightweight, so great for arming out on a boom, even a C-stand arm. In fact, let's look at that real quick. We'll put this other plate on it. Now see how that could be a limitation in the center there? Just if you have your arm at an angle like that for some reason, you're wanting to tilt it down. What we could do, give us a little more flexibility. Move it to there. And see how we can kind of tilt that down further with the angle of that arm. I'm gonna put it back to the middle for this setup though. Bag the leg there. But check that out. We can extend that arm, full length. Barely a bend in that arm. So you can just see what kind of a lightweight fixture we're working with here. And this demonstrates why I think it could use a longer head cable. As you can see, even just sitting there on the counter, it was too far away. So I could put the mount on the stand here and it would give me a little more space, but if you're booming out any further than that, like on a longer arm or something, it's just gonna become a limiting factor. But I love just how quick and lightweight this thing is to put together. You can slap it on a C-stand arm if you just need a quick like top-down lighting on a tabletop, you know, a food or item or something like that. That's a pretty nice, quick, easy light to grab. And this is not recommended, but I just kicked the sandbag off the leg. And it's, obviously it's a little off center of the long leg there, but it's still relatively stable. All right. Pretty cool. Something else I wanted to mention though, get rid of this C-stand. These plates, well, they're nice and they work well. If you're gonna have that sort of form factor, I don't know why they didn't make it compatible with Kino. That was one of the first things I tried when I saw it. Was like, oh great, that's kind of the Kino style connector on there, but completely incompatible. Different size, spacing, doesn't have the hole in the middle. Again, it just becomes one more thing on the truck, whereas if, you know, these things have been around forever, they're really not that different. I don't know why you wouldn't just make it compatible with the Kino style plates. And like I said before, these are twist, you know, Kinos would twist. These ones actually go on with a horizontal slide like that. Not a bad mount, it's just, I wish it would be a little bit more standardized. All right, I just wanted to give you kind of a quick reference for the power this thing can throw out. For example, right now we're keying with a Gemini 2x1 soft through a 4x frame of 216, which is giving us, at about that 6 foot distance, an 8, f8 and 2/10 at 800 ISO, 24 frames a second. So just to kind of give you a frame of reference for how bright this thing is, that light is again 6 foot away on the fill side. And let's see how much that actually fills in my face. 100%. Which brought this up actually brighter than the other side. 8 6/10. Can you just kill that light for a second? Obviously this is not a fair comparison because this is being spread a lot softer through a bigger frame. Thanks, Kiko. But that's 5, 6, 9/10. Very nearly an f8 on this side. And then go ahead and strike that back up. So it's powerful enough that you can definitely use it as a key light. The closer you have it to the subject, obviously the softer it would be. But the softbox on it is not really making the source much bigger. It's just kind of combining them all in one. And that only makes the light so much softer. You can only soften a light so much without making it bigger. So very nice option to have. If I were to use it as a key light, I would probably be pushing it through something a bit bigger, like a frame or a 4x frame or a 2x3 or something like that. It'd be interesting if they came out with like another soft box that would actually make the source itself bigger, but very nice as it is. And just wanted to, I'm not gonna go through and do a bunch of color readings on this, but just trust me that the color it's throwing out is great. Like I feel like manufacturers have really started to nail the color fidelity on these LED lights, and Nanlite is no exception. So I'm not gonna Andrew lock this and give you 100 readings there, although I appreciate that Andrew does that. Just trust that it's a very nice light source for what it is. So we did take this light out on a 2-day shoot in Chicago, kind of South Loop area, and it was a corporate-y sort of project, and I thought it would be the perfect light to bring for the scenario we were thinking, because essentially we had a dolly, we've got some footage we can throw of that, a doorway dolly, and the idea was that they would kind of leave the camera on the dolly all day, roll it around these big sprawling campuses, and we had the idea to rig just a lightweight light off of it for kind of a walk-in key, because they were doing some just walk and talk. This light being as lightweight as it was, we just rigged it up off of a disconnected C-stand, boomed it out away from the dolly some, and slapped a gold mount battery on it via adapter, and ran it pretty much off the same battery all day. I think we had it between 20 and 40% most of the day. That was enough to kind of give us a close proximity walking key, kind of filling in. And the beauty of it in like an environment like that where you're using a bunch of existing lights as well, is we could tune the color exactly to whatever the environment was throwing at us. In some areas we were maybe near some windows. In other areas, they had the kind of 4,000 Kelvin LEDs going on in the ceiling, and we were just kind of able to dial it in whatever the environment was, match the green magenta shift, which is a big deal. When you're working with bicolor lights, that can be a challenge, kind of matching the green magenta, but the fact this is RGB, we could dial that right in. It worked really well, and being as lightweight as it was, we didn't have to counterbalance the dolly or anything. It was just ready to go. We also used it kind of as a eye kind of catch light scenario where we maybe had a separate key light, then we just had it directly over camera and brought it just enough to kind of bring a little life into the eyes as they're delivering their lines. But all in all, I'd say it's a really good value light. I think these run about $800, and for the features that you get out of this thing, I really don't think you can complain about that. Form factor wise, I feel like it falls between like a light mat kind of idea and maybe a 1x1. Another light that probably a lot of people would compare it to would be the Amaran F21c. I've used that a couple times before. Honestly, I much prefer the form factor of something that's just rigid and you just pull it out of the case and it's ready to go, versus like those kind of flexible light ideas. It's a little more fiddly to put together. They seem more flimsy. I like something that's a little bit more rigid like this, or a Coroplast kind of backed lightweight fixture. And I think Nanlite's just hit a really solid balance of a lot of different features here. The fact that it has built-in lumen radio is great. Professional connections. Could use a longer head cable. I don't like that it's only got the V-mount on there. I would definitely want to change that. The mounting system we've gone over. It's solid, it's great. Wish they would have gone a little more non-proprietary on that, but overall, a solid performing fixture. And I will definitely be using this on a number of projects going forward. Primary scenarios I would see using it is where I just need a really lightweight fixture that I can arm out somewhere, put up or rig, easily. I think that's going to be a nice feature to have. Honestly, if we just need to be on a real kind of run and gun sort of project, or something where we just have to grab and go, it has a surprising amount of punch for its size, and the fact that you can run it off of one gold mount battery, one V-Log battery, that's a really nice feature. It's powerful enough to use as a key light, especially if you want to add another layer of diffusion in front of it. I think it can make a really nice key. Just a versatile light you could use in any number of scenarios. So I wanted to show you the case here real quick, and you saw how we took it out of the box. They're signaling me to look at the other camera. I am rebelliously looking at the B cam by default. I'll look at the other camera. So this is one kind of thing I don't like about this case. It puts the light in the back, which is fine, plenty protected and padded in there, but I'm not a fan of that. Now, if you have the ballast and stuff in there, it's not a big deal because the weight of that keeps it from tipping backward, but it's just kind of a little minor annoyance. I could, I guess, just adjust this a little bit, the angle there, which is nice that they give you that option. But yeah, it's just a little bit annoying on that side. I wish it would have been maybe in here or laid on top or something. So I guess you're locked into a specific order of events. You really need to take this out before you take out the GAC. Speaking of GAC, the question is, as a gaffer, would I put something like this on the truck? Yes, I would, with some contingencies. So the difference between being like an owner-op, maybe DP or kind of like more of a run and gun guy who owns a few lights, and being like a gaffer who's hired to come with a truck full of lights is how quickly you can grab them and use them, and how well they hold up, being jostled around in a truck. Now, if I have this all put up in its case, that's gonna hold up pretty well. I mean, it's a soft case, so it'll hold up as well as any soft case would. It's gonna take up that much room on the cart, which is not bad, but the downside is you have to build it. And that's why I feel like this is kind of a nice middle ground, because this is already built. I don't have to have this flimsy, nylon material that I have to stick, an X into and rig it up. And this softbox feature that it's kind of on there by default, and you just pop it up, that's pretty quick. Then all I gotta do is I guess I gotta put the plate on there, pop that on a stand, plug it into the ballast and the ballast into the wall. So it's more work than, for instance, grabbing something like this, 2x1 Gemini fixture. This just sits on the head cart by itself, and it's got a cable you plug into it. All I have to do is grab that off the head cart, put it on the stand, not that one because that's a baby stand, I need a junior stand, plug it in, and it's ready to go. And this thing can put up with quite a bit of abuse. This light, you have to build it. So that is time that it takes on set versus something that's kind of pre-built and ready to use. So that's kind of a form factor thing to consider. And will I put it on my truck? Yes. It's not going to live on there, but there's a lot of projects where I would break it down, put it in its case, and throw it on a cart. Nanlite PavoSlim 120c. So this has just been my honest review of this light as a working gaffer here in the Midwest. Nanlite is not sponsoring this video, hasn't given us any money, but we do get to keep the light. So thank you, Nanlite, for that. And looking forward to using this in more scenarios, having it as a tool in my kit. If you want to follow my Instagram account, I post a lot of stories there. If you want to, I'm sure you'll see it pop up a little bit more in the feed. But looking forward to putting this thing a little more through its paces in some different environments. That's all for this episode of the Dapper Gaffer. Tune in next week when we don't have a video, because we're releasing them once every 6 months.
For now.
For now. What should be the outro?
Honestly,
That was it.
I left my, that's why I said, I was like, honestly, I didn't, my voice in the back.
I like that.